Okay, now we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Cerberus at The Improv. I'm one of your co-hosts, Payman Ascari. I'm joined here today by my fellow co-host, Mr. Andre Mosh. Hello, Andre.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Payman. Hi, Arnold.
So, in addition to having the swear jar today, where we have to put in a quarter if we swear, if Tim and I accidentally call Andre Arnold or Arnold Andre, we also have to put money into the swear jar.
This will happen.
Tim, how are you doing, Mr. Knight?
Today's a good day. I mean, I was going to say the weather's cooler, but it's 12 degrees Celsius.
I think it's warmer. It's warmer.
Somewhere in Ontario, it's like minus 4,000. So.
Yeah, but nobody likes Ontario. Those guys are.
Ontario is climate change.
We've got Andre with Arnold. He already did it. There goes the quarter in the swear jar. We've got Arnold here. We can't. Can we like separate Sault Ste. Marie from Ontario for the sake of today's show, or do we have to throw the whole thing out the window? Defenestrate. There we go. The whole town.
We'll leave that to Arnold. If he does a good performance, we might give him a pass. If not, we're going to lump him in with Mr. Ford.
Lump him with Mr. Ford. I hope it's a good show because I had to do artwork for this.
Oh yeah, those precious 3 minutes.
Four.
Moving along, Arnold, how you doing?
Living the dream. How about you guys? Thanks for having me on.
No, you're most welcome. By way of introduction, Arnold, you have been on my show, I believe, twice. You've also been on Andre's show. Andre, Goldfish Memory. What was the name of your show?
The Philosophy of Information.
There we go. So you were on Andre's show as well, right?
Yes, I was.
All right. Arnold, to get things started, there's four of us, so it might be a little bit chaotic today, but tell us about your recent election in Ontario, how it went, and I don't know, give us an update.
Well, first, hopefully, Payman, you can get Andre's and my name properly this time. Every time I talk to you, you'll always call me Andre, so maybe because it's too late at night for you, but going forward, so we had the election in Sault Ste. Marie for the New Blue Party, obviously. As everybody knows, Doug Ford called the snap election. I think only had 2-3 weeks at the very most get set up for it. So it was a high-winded affair, let's put it that way. A lot of events happened. We unfortunately, the PCs won. NDP finished close second, and Liberals finished third, which is usually the normal three. But actually, in Sault Ste. Marie, we overtook the Green Party.
Wow!
So, which is we're one of only 8 cities in Ontario to do so. Which for a new party, 4 years old, that's a huge stepping stone. So yeah.
Any follow-up questions from? Let's go to Andre.
Arnold, you said that you were ahead of the Green Party. I think it was 8 or 10 riding. Because I was watching the election that night, I was following you particularly. So, and I saw that you did well in your riding. So, I think you mentioned it was 8.
Yeah,
8 riding.
8. The New Blue Party overtook the Green Party in 8 ridings in Ontario.
That's good. That's good. And we knew what would happen with the snap election. We knew that.
I think we could have done a lot better. Like you could tell, like it's happened versus what we have 1, 2, 3, 5 debates, I guess, or meetings, whatever. And the first 2 just happened to be. The first one was with the Ontario Secondary Teachers Association. Second one was with the local 2251 steelworkers. And it just happened to be that the only person that showed up was the NDP. I never got invited. The Liberals never got invited. The PC said they never got invited. And it just seems like, okay, what's going on with that? So a lot of people in the Sioux were saying, well, at least the NDP are showing up to these debates. Well, yeah, when they're the only ones being invited. So I did a letter to the editor and about that. I said, just to get the record straight that no, we weren't invited either. And according to the other three parties, they weren't invited either. And I remember one day I was going to go to speak at a retirement home, and somebody called me up on the phone and said, "Arnold, you got to stop off at the Legion." I said, "Okay," because there was a candidates meeting there. So I just assumed it was going to be, okay, what's going on here? How come nobody's getting the invites? Do we not have the proper email addresses or, phone numbers? But I guess I walked in there, 50 to 75 people there. And it's like, okay, I thought this was supposed to be only a meeting with the candidates. And the lady said, no, this is a delegate meeting. I said, how come I never got invited? So I'm with the New Blue Party. And she goes, well, we only invited the top four. I said, did you realize there's 6 candidates in selection, not 4? And she goes, well, do you want to go up on stage? And so I guess I'm here now, eh? So kind of got thrown to the wall. But at least they, the retirement people that put it on, at least they were very, I'll give them 100% credit after the debate. They apologized profusely, and they actually said that, so you're running for the People's Party in the federal election. I said, yeah. I said, we promise you that we will invite you to our debates too, along with as I call them, the Fab Four. But
is it the common practice when the media or local media they screen the candidate, like if they invite only 4 party out of 6?
Well, it wasn't a local media. It was, you said the Ontario Secondary Teachers Federation Union, and
it's a union, okay.
2 unions. So I mean, that says it all right there. When only the NDP shows up, I mean,
we're surprised unions do not invite only the NDP.
Well, that's what they did
in a debate.
So, if I might interject, the second meeting for which she later apologized, you believe that was an honest mistake on the part of those organizers because they're unfamiliar with organizing and communications?
Yeah, I think with them, yeah, it was totally honest mistake. Like they said to me, you know, you're right. We should have invited everybody, but because everybody's so brainwashed, like with just the PCs, the Liberals,
yes,
the Green Party, and the NDP. So,
do you think that reflects the mentality of people? Because if people always focus on the 2 main party, conservative, the Liberal, and a little bit the NDP, or like in BC, it's more the NDP and the conservative. You think they are conditioned to think like that?
Well, I think it's been like that for going on 100 years now. All they know is it's like a family tradition. That's how Hank Williams song goes.
Yeah, was that line "us 4 and no more"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we had another debate. Another debate we had was with the youth group, which was really good. And then only 3 of us showed up to that, and then we had got thrown in lines then at Algoma University. I don't know if anybody knows who Algoma University is, but 6,000 of the 7,000 are all immigrants. So
Wow.
and it's a woke university.
Yeah, you talked to me about this experience, and can you describe this? Because I watched one debate and I saw how you reacted. So maybe you describe the way you answer questions or the way you debate. They ask you to answer a question and they give you a time to answer.
Yeah, one of the questions was came from the audience and had to do with the LGBTQ community and transgender and all that, and what would you do to stop it, whatever. And I answered like, I mean, in all honesty, there's no room for racism or bigotry in Canada. We're all made equal under the guise of God. So whether you disagree with their lifestyle, it's not us to say, well, you're a bad person because you do that. What you do behind closed doors is your business, none of my business, and vice versa. So it's funny though, I was hoping they would answer questions like about the DEI in schools and all that, but they didn't come up with them questions in that exact form, you know.
Yeah, I watched your debate at the university there, and they framed the question in a way to make it look bad. So there was, the prevalence of racism and homophobia and sexism. They didn't look at the other side, which is what's DEI, forced equity, stuff like that.
Well, exactly. I mean, they were. I think they knew what they're doing. I mean, again, like I say, you got. I mean, it's like I said, the Algonquin University is they're all for the LGBTQ and stuff like that, and it's just a total woke university. I mean, as everybody knows, if you see what's going on with the schools that are being caught, I don't want to say money laundering, but in false school fronts in Brampton, Algonquin University was one of them. So
that's grift.
Yeah,
it's a form of It's grift for votes, grift for influence.
Yeah.
We were talking briefly last night, setting up, and mentioned how the left is very well organized. They know what they're doing. They step into a room knowing the room and knowing their objectives.
Oh, 100%. Like you look at the Democrats in the States and the Liberals in Canada, they could see something's black and you tell them it's white, and they see something's black and they're told to tell it's white. They follow the party line right down to the last person. I mean, whereas you get the conservatives, whatever, it's like everybody thinks their idea is better than the next person. They don't. Yeah. And that's, I think, even with the truckers' convoy. I mean, that's just what happened. Everybody wanted to be. It's all about me wanting to lead this rather than banding as a team. Like I use terminology of like hockey. Like everybody on the ice knows how to skate, but everybody has a specialty on the ice.
Yes.
And the teams that win the Stanley Cup are the ones that actually put the pride aside to get that goal.
Do you maybe I have a question toward the organization, an EDA or a party in Ontario. Do you think the Conservative Party or the Conservative Movement, or like the New Blue Party, which is a conservative party, are they well organized? Are they structured? Are you surrounded by people of experience? You're a man of experience, so you know that you can work with young people. It's not the problem. But how are you surrounded?
Well, I mean, the structure of the organization is really good. Like we managed to get 108 candidates throughout Ontario out of 123 in a very short time. Mm-hmm. That's amazing for that. And in 4 years now, we are the fifth most recognized party in Ontario, just in 4 years. So, in this 2 year, I had 5 strong people. Like, unfortunately, we didn't have time to get a bigger team, but like we did a sign showing event on the main road, Great Northern Road, to promote my name and all that. And I think one time we had about 30 people out there, 30 people out there at one time promoting the signs. So the volunteers were really good. So
do you have photography or film of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd be very happy to receive that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
No, that's a good way to promote or to educate people how to canvass or how to do rallies. I think it's important. People are not aware of that. I'm not aware of that. What's the procedure? Volunteering is very important. So that's a good point.
Like we had a good backing from the Million Man Marches and all that. So they all hate the NDP Liberals and PCs anyway. So. But
so, do you think the vote? Well, now Doug Ford won, so it's not a vote against Doug Ford because he won. We cannot compare this to the federal election. But did you see an improvement? Because we saw I think the Liberal lost a lot, and you picked up the ball. So in 4 years, and you start running an election in what it was 26 days, something like that, even
Not
shorter, I think.
sort of like maybe 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
Maybe.
21 days.
Like, because basically you have to go get your name, get your 30 names, whatever, and bring it to Elections Canada and do all the paperwork. So basically, it might as well say it was a 2-week campaign. Like,
Mhm.
like the PCs, like they parachuted somebody in from out of town, which a lot of people didn't like, but they overnight our whole city was littered with Chris Scott signs. I mean, everywhere you drove, and they did that overnight. So, I mean, so you're going against machines that have a lot of money.
Yeah. It's easy for an incumbent to do something like that when they're using your money to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And the federal government behaves the same way.
like, for signage, we had a bunch of bag signs and that, but they didn't have my name on it, so we didn't have the time or money, and to get the name, well, mostly the money to get the name on the signs. That's why we did the rallies on Great Northern Road.
Yeah.
One of my guys on the team, he's a sign maker, so he made 3 or 4 great big signs that you can see my name from a mile away. So
Yeah. You mentioned that the particular party is 4 years old.
Yeah.
What's like a couple of questions? What is the origin of the party, and how is it organized to prepare, to have candidates sitting on the sidelines, ready, developing following, developing support, building up a war chest? What has that looked like for the last 4 years?
I just got into the party this year, but how the party originated was Belinda Carlios. She was a PC member in Queen's Park, and she stood up against, I think it was, how do I put it down?
Previous premier.
I know she stood up. She was the only one in Parliament that stood up against. I think it was the DI in schools or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but something like that. She was the only one in Parliament that stood up against that, and so I guess they told her that you can't do that, and she did it, and I guess they kind of backbenched her, and they let her go, and that's when her and her husband Jim formed the party. So,
and by Parliament, you mean the Ontario Legislature?
Yeah, Queen's Park. Yeah.
You mentioned that the party is 4 years old, so it was created during the pandemic.
Yep.
2019. 2019, so it's 6 years old. Because
2020, something like that.
Because my question would be, will you see a growth in the future? Do you expect a growth? Because after now, it is what in Ontario, it's like in all provinces, it's 4-year term, I suppose.
Yeah.
So they will have to prepare because there's no election, no MLA.
Well, going forward, and hopefully they don't make the same mistake as the People's Party did after the lockdowns.
2019, yes.
Yeah, the lockdowns there, because
okay.
They had the movement going, and then the People's Party went on vacation, as we always talk about. But hopefully that they don't do the same thing. So, and I think Jim and Belinda, they're not going to. So,
I remember. I just have a quick question. The Conservative Party of Quebec in 2021, just before the 2022 election in Quebec, was able to recruit 60,000 members in 6 months. Wow. And that was the greatest, I would say, recruitment that we ever saw in Quebec. Do you think that the party will be able to capitalize on that, the New Blue Party?
Well, in the first election there, we got the most votes of any new party in the history of Ontario. So good. That's a good thing. So again, we have to, moving forward, like our platform it's non-start. I mean, it's great. So it's just a matter of keeping the pedal to the metal kind of deal. And when you do have candidates that are going to stay involved, I think that moving forward, then you should be prepared. Like if we would have had my signs with my names all over the city, that makes a big difference because
Mm.
see the blue party, whatever, the blue party, and then it's like, okay, but who's the candidate? So
Do you feel that the new blue party will have good candidate retention moving toward the next election?
I think
Like I
so.
say, you want to avoid that lull and that inactivity, right? That depressive phase that happens after the Olympics, that type of thing, right? You want to avoid that. How do you plan on maintaining candidate activity after that significant expense, personal energy, financial time investment, whatnot? Because a lot of these people have full-time jobs or other careers or whatnot. How does the party plan on maintaining that energy level?
I think the biggest thing is continue to have communications with your candidates. I know that's big. I know that's just a concept out there sometimes, but you want to have constant communication with the candidates, and then going forward, like if a candidate's going to stay on, then they just have to learn how to keep the ball rolling. Whatever, they don't have to go hog wild like we had to do in
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that social media will help? Well, did you use social media during those 3 short weeks? I saw a couple of interventions that you published on X. X is one social media. You have Facebook. You have a lot of that. So did it help?
Well, I used Heyman's editor there, whatever, Marliese. She took over she took over all my accounts, and she did a great job. So a great job. I mean, with that short period of time, because we're only a small team, you don't really have a chance to door knock. So that's why we did the things on Great Northern.
Yeah.
But going forward, like we had some flyers left over, so we hit 5 big apartment buildings that we thought would make a difference, and we just hammered it one day and hit them all, and that made a big difference. So going forward now, I think we'll do the opposite. We'll hit the apartment buildings first, because I didn't know that, but they during election they have to let you in the building.
That's right. Yeah,
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it because there's no soliciting, no flyers, whatever.
Yeah.
But election laws say that they have to allow you in the building.
Yes, the Elections Act opens doors in closed communities during the election period. Yeah, and if you are challenged on it, the Elections Act and Elections Ontario has an actual letter formula that you can present. So you modify it and you can present that to the on-site manager or the owner, and they are required by law to give you access to the building.
Yeah, we didn't have them problems at the buildings we went to, but we should have went the opposite way around, hit them apartment buildings first, and plus 3 of them that we hit actually had a polling station there, so we targeted
Excellent.
them. So,
Excellent. Yeah. And how was your volunteer support?
great. There was about 5 of us that, like every time like we stood up and stood out in front of Metro there, like and we I handed out flyers and always had somebody with me if I was never go there alone.
Right.
And we had Bonsey Park here. We had the last day, which was polar bear swimming. So we stood out there. We weren't on the property because we knew they wouldn't like that, but we were right outside the property, and people would come and go, and they would we'd hand out flyers. It was funny. These 2 couple of girls, they walked by us 3 times, twice, and then you want a flyer? No, don't want a flyer. Then they came back, and they went back to get their dog, and they came back with the dog, and they asked me, so what do you think of 2 girls? Lesbians. I said, what you do behind closed doors is none of my business. They took the flyer.
Yeah. And that seems to be the bulk of these marginalized communities that have been weaponized for the purpose of whatever Marxist nonsense is going on at the top. And how many people we bump into who, private conversations, they say, well, I'm this lifestyle or I'm that lifestyle, and the government doesn't speak for me. The government doesn't speak for me. And they say, we just don't want to be treated poorly by the community, and we'd like the same opportunities that everybody else has. And that's effectively what the conservative mindset, the conservative view really has.
You know, it's funny you bring up about the closed doors, whatever, us being allowed to go in apartment buildings, but we have 2 malls up here, but we're not allowed to go in the malls.
During an election, you are.
You were not allowed to go in the mall?
Yes, you are.
Oh, we were told no.
No, you were lied to.
Yeah, but this is provincial law. Is it? You were thinking maybe federal?
The Elections Act is a federal act. It's elections, period.
He said, Election Canada.
Nationwide at all levels.
So, I asked to set up a booth in there,
Yeah.
and they said no, you can't.
They may be able to prevent you from setting up a booth, and so they could find some,
Okay.
action within the company that manages, the facility, but they cannot prevent you from having physical access to the inside of the building for the purpose of canvassing during an election.
I can resolve this very quickly. We can put it to Sue. She's in the house, our resident almanac, and she'll answer us.
What we did on that is we said, well, we'll go to one mall there, and we're just going to the mall and have a coffee and have a business meeting. That's all.
Yes.
We put the
Yeah.
flyers on one table, we
Yeah.
sat at another table, and
Yes.
had coffee.
Absolutely, because if they can frame it, so can we.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
they
you play
if they can
around.
frame it, so can we. Yeah, and that's creative. I'm encouraged to see that, because there are plenty out there who would be discouraged because they feel they're against some form of a Goliath, so they stop and they don't turn what they can to their own personal advantage. Like you said, well, okay, so we're not canvassing anymore. We're guests. Let's go to the food court and sit down and have a meal and talk a bit louder than we normally would.
Yeah, and then we can't have the papers on the table that we're eating at because we want to mess them up. So just put them on the table beside where everybody can see them.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, that's good.
I wanted to make an announcement to the audience. I forgot to mention this. We'll get to the questions at the end of the segment. I have a question for you, Arnold. In BC, we have 2 parties, basically. It's a 2-party system provincially. What is it about Ontario that gave you guys the backbone to have not just 6 parties, but 3 populist parties? Like, well, what is it about you guys that's different?
You're talking about the Ontario Party and the PPO, I think it is.
The provincial party, the People's Party of Ontario.
Well, I think Jim and who runs the Ontario Party,
Derek Sloan.
Sloan. I think Sloan just put the party in there to go against the New Party rather than work with them, because I don't think Jim and Derek Sloan get along at all. So I think there's a rip going between them. So
does that speak back to the cults of personality problem that reared up during the convoy?
well, you could say that, yeah. Seems to be
Tim, do you refer to Derek Sloan?
Yes.
Okay, no, because I followed Derek Sloan.
But not him alone. Not him alone.
No, I'm not
right?
pointing.
Yeah, and the cult of personality is an endemic problem in almost every type of ideology and every type of group, because it's partly human nature. And like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, so many people who said, well, I think my idea is the right idea. So then you have 3 or 4 people milling around the top, trying to vie for control of the situation. Then everybody else is at the bottom going, okay, so where do we get our orders? When do we get our orders? What are we going to do? And over time, you either have one rises to the top and takes control, and then the others are forced into lieutenant positions, or they fracture the group and go off and create their own. And we saw plenty of that after the convoy.
Well, that's why I'm referring to not necessarily Derek Sloan, but the ideology. Because you have 3 conservative party, nobody ever decided to call another party and try to have not necessarily a merger, but a good and frank conversation. Because if it is 3 conservative party, I can compare this to Quebec. In Quebec, we have 1 conservative party. The rest, it is either liberal, which I would call even socialist, and you have Quebec Solidaire. So How come it did not happen? I understand the cult of personality, but sometimes you have to step on your ego for the greater good. Or is it? Do you think it would have been possible?
Well, I think so, but again, you look at it seems to be a Canadian thing. Like even the freedom movements, whatever, they don't know how to bind together. Everybody thinks my idea is let's go after the government, or like the truckers convoy when it started out was fantastic, and then it fractured off as it brought in bad actors as it was coming along.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I go back to Derek Sloan. Derek Sloan, he was from the Conservative Party of Canada, so he got out, and then he created his own party provincially.
But he went out west to run a two-dip, I'm pretty sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were serious conversations on the backside between himself and Maxime Bernier of the People's Party of Canada. Yeah. And at some point in time, Derek said, yeah, I'm not interested in doing this. So it's, again, speaks back to oftentimes individuals with a more conservative mindset or conservative personality are much more individualistic, as opposed to people of a more liberal mindset or liberal personalities are much more collectivist. And so this is like you mentioned, how quickly and how easy it is for, like the NDP groups and the woke groups to very quickly coalesce and organize and fall in underneath some form of leadership. Good, bad, or indifferent, they will fall under some form of leadership. Just give us a queen bee. Whereas conservative-minded individuals, because we are individualists by nature, much more inclined to be in conflict with each other.
Conflict or in debate?
Conflict. Conflict.
So that's because you're Irish.
Right. Well,
no, but
it is conflict because they don't. It gets to the point where they don't like each other personally.
Yeah. So the purpose of debate as a practice historically has two purposes, right? So one is the exercise of open debate, the exercise itself, the sharing of ideas. The second is to actually convert the audience and the other debaters, right? So the combative element, the conflict element, is where we forget we're all in this together, and we demand to convert, as opposed to, well, what does Paul write? Is let us reason together, and the reasoning together is a more liberal approach. So it's almost like a Peterson Young talks about this in particular, that the conservative-minded individual, those in conservative, needs liberalism, and liberalism needs conservatism, not as ideologies, but as personalities. And it's difficult to find that these days because certainly Generation X has been split into a very bipolar approach, particularly to ideology and a government policy. So on the right hand,
follow-up comments.
Yeah.
No, you're totally right. I mean, it's been happening since time. The very first time it really happened per se, or a couple times you could be like is during the Vietnam War or even the hippie movement. That's when you could really come to light, where they hated the government and all that, but they couldn't never get together on a lesser. They just couldn't get together.
Although the follow-up comment on that is, I'm very happy to see a number of different parties that were not in the race before to rise up to the challenge, because we here on the show, we've been saying the way to make a change in the upper layers is to make a change in the where you live, right? Whether you're becoming involved in, your hockey team, or, your parent advisory council at school, or the town council, provincial elections, mid-level bureaucracy, wherever you have your skill and your capability, you inject yourself into those communities, and that will foment change from below, so that as the cream of corruption rises to the top, it gets pulled off, right? And then quality comes up from underneath. So we're very encouraged as a show to see multiple parties rise up, even though there are going to be inherent inherent issues with that itself. But the fact that it happened at all is significant and a very hopeful sign.
Well, you bring up a good point. Like, I mean, the only way you can, like, everybody wants to do revolution, whatever want to, like, some groups, they want to overtake government. It's not going to work that way, because you have to, if you want to make a change, you have to be the change. You have to get involved. And like, I mean, you'll see what's happening, like, in all our governments right now. It's like with, I know it's a different subject, but it isn't. Like with immigration, you have immigrants taking over a political system, and they know exactly how they're doing it. Now, just Canadians, they have to step up to the plate and do the same thing.
Yeah, it's a step up, or you guarantee your replacement.
Yeah.
You see the big difference between the Ontario political context and the rest of Canada, let's say BC, or because, BC is NDP, in the Maritimes it is more liberal. In Quebec it is, I could say, socialist, social democrat. And Ontario is supposed to be, Ontario is the center of the country, in a sense, geographically speaking. So maybe we would expect Ontario to be the leader, in a sense of being the center. We always say we have to govern in the center, so we avoid extreme. So how do you perceive this compared to other provinces?
I don't know. I think Doug Ford is Trudeau's right-hand man. I mean, it doesn't matter right across the spectrum. You can look at it. All leaders across Canada, they're all singing the same song now.
Even Danielle Smith.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's singing the same tune as Doug Ford now.
Mm-hmm.
Tariff. I mean, you can see that it's almost like Trudeau said, if you don't do this, you get no money or something, whatever. Because they're all.
Well, there's always a threat.
Yeah. There's always a dossier with your name on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that dossier could be empty. It's the implication that matters.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. I'm at the National Citizens Inquiry here in Edmonton. There was a guest testifying yesterday. Drew Barnes is his name. He ran in the Alberta legislature. He was an MLA, and he said that the party system is completely broken. The leader of the party, the premier, shuts down any debate, and he said the only way out is to have smaller parties, more parties, and sort of democratize that. Do you see that happening? It's a follow-up of my question of how you guys have so many populist parties.
We just have to get one of the smaller parties just to get a seat in Queen's Park there, and that's where we started. You just get that one seat, and once you get that one seat, and then you see what's happening. Like, you look, Southern Ontario, an independent got in Southern Ontario, and she got in with 65%. So that's one step right there. So now it's just a matter of like for the new Blue Party to get a seat or two in the next election and stuff like that, and just make little baby steps. And next thing you know, like, it's like the 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 = 8 mentality. So,
yeah.
So that independent who got in, that person is not interested to join a party, in the sense that for the organization.
I think she got kicked out. I don't know the exact story on it, but I think she got kicked out of a party, and she ran independent, and
because she was popular, I suppose she.
Yeah, and then and the guy said, "Well, you won't be around next election." Well, she got
challenge accepted.
But what you're mentioning, it shows exactly what Pamela was talking about.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about, small steps.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If other provinces had similar people at that level interested, what advice would you offer them?
You're there to work for the people, which is the first thing. It's not about me. It's about we, the people, and You just have to talk to them and gain their trust, and you got to have the right platform. And you can't say that, well, when we, like what I noticed during the debates is like, we got $800,000 for this, and the Liberals said, and the NDP said, well, we're going to give you $122 grocery allowance checks and all that. Where's the money coming from? Like, who's paying for it? You can't promise them things like that. You have to say what we're going to do when we get in there. First off, you can see, like, I think the biggest thing that I said was, we got to find out where all the money is being spent, and that's the biggest thing you have to start off first. Find out where the money's being spent and stop it from, and if you're funding any money, you have to you want to know where every cent's going, who you getting the building materials from, who the labor contractors, and who are they hiring and all that. You want to right down to the last red cent, because it seems to be common practice every time they send out money, there's no accountability for it.
Accountability.
Yeah. And they just throw money out there. And if you you always got to wonder why all these projects always go over budget. It always seems to be a government funded project.
Yeah. Maybe we will see in the next few years a new academic program in universities teaching how to be a Dodge. It's a joke, but anyway, we see that accountability is very important, and we don't have it nowhere. So, how do you think that it will? Do you think it will change under the new majority government of Ford? It doesn't look like he will have any inquiries or
not at all. You see
more transparency.
No, not at all. I mean, we're already the highest. We have the highest debt, higher than Kathleen Wynne, and now he's adding more money to it. Like,
I have one question about Ontario and interprovincial trading. That is something that we're all suffering for. Do you think there will be an opening one day, or because?
I'd like to see the opening between Northern Ontario and Southern Ontario, because it seems like every provincial government worries about Southern Ontario. They could give two shits about Northern Ontario,
except for the natural resources.
Well, that too, yeah. But I mean, our highways, you got Highway 17 and Highway 11 North, and they're death traps. But they want to build this underground tunnel down in Toronto,
right?
Like, and which is the stupidest thing, because the more, it doesn't matter how many cars you put on that highway system in Toronto, just more cars are just going to fill it up.
Yes.
The city of Toronto could only take in so many cars. So you put another highway system, whatever, and then all you can do is have bigger lineups, because nobody can get in. The road structure in Toronto can only take in so many cars.
Yeah, so you're already beyond capacity.
Yeah, that's the problem of megapole like Toronto or New York. I don't know. Vancouver is still small.
Vancouver has one way in and one way out for 2.5 million people.
Oh, that's quite a lot. A lot of people, and only one entry and one exit. That's not because we see all those great big cities. I cannot even compare this. Montreal is not a big city in terms of population. They already have problems with traffic everywhere, especially with the configuration of the island of Montreal.
Right.
Toronto doesn't have the same problem, but like you said, the population is much bigger. And in your riding, Sault Ste. Marie, it's what 150,000 people, something like that.
Well, around 80,000. So
80,000.
Yeah.
So it's I compare this to some cities. So the riding, Is it rural? Is it industrial? We were talking about it when we had the conversation.
We have a steel plant here, and then we have we have a wakeboard plant here, and we had be nice if we used to have a paper mill here, but it's shut down now. So basically, a steel plant is our biggest industry.
So I suppose it would your riding would be affected by the tariff in a heavily.
They're already talking about it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, we'll see what's going to happen. I mean, I think this tariff.
Well, it's a tango now.
Yeah, I think this tariff thing. I mean, with our government, they're totally looking at it at the wrong way. I was listening to Preston Manning. He said this is the best opportunity for Canada to become an economic powerhouse with the states, not become the 51st state, but become an economic powerhouse to be fully independent of every other country in the world, and have them coming to us begging for our stuff. Yeah. And then at the same time, when we're making that economic line there, then we can actually get rid of our provincial barriers.
Yeah. Something that Trump is not saying, but it is right there under the surface is, we call you the 51st state in jest, because he's challenging them to come to the table and have a proper conversation. But what is also being said is, we believe you are worthy, equal, on par, a peer of the United States. We want you to join the team. That's the understated. I mean, Puerto Rico, right? It's an example. Why Puerto Rico? Because it has value to the United States. If it had no value, it wouldn't be there, right? So by saying to Canada, we think you have enough value that we're interested in tossing your people out of Parliament Hill, your governor of Canada, and bringing you under our wing. And by saying that, like I said, gives Canada a very unique opportunity among everyone else in the world. He didn't say that to Britain. He didn't say it to Mexico. He didn't say it to the Falkland Islands, right? He said it to Canada.
Well,
the big problem, Tim, is he's inviting people at the table, but on the other side of the border, you have children with teenagers' behavior.
Yeah.
So you really want to negotiate? Does Donald Trump really wants to negotiate with teenagers?
The Kim Iverson had an interview with Maxime Bernier the day before yesterday, I believe, and basically they both agreed that were Canada to join the United States, they didn't want another 40 million people acting like California.
Yeah,
Gavin Newsom, yes, of course.
Right? And
they have experience.
I thought that was a brilliant summary of the political environment. And
it is.
Trump's not stupid. He knows these things,
What I think what people are missing here is, like, when Trump lost in 2020, it was a free-for-all with every Canadian politician. They called him every name underneath the bus, and they berated him, not thinking that Trump would get in. So he has a vendetta against.
He has a vendetta, of course,
and for good reason and well earned,
against Canadian politicians. Not like, I mean, as much as you don't like a guy as a politician, or even in utter respect, you don't go on live TV and call him an idiot or whatever, like Doug Ford did, or even Charlie Angus there and Timmins there, the NDP, call them names underneath the butt, everything underneath the bus, whatever. You don't do that. I mean, and Trump said, "I'll come back at you 10 times as hard."
And it's not difficult to do it.
Yeah,
it's not difficult to do it. Yeah, we would be a bigger competitor in a trade war if we had effectively managed our resources, had processing capability and manufacturing capability and relationships with other larger export partners. We don't. And the United States knows this. So rather than us manning up and doing with what Canada is capable of doing, we choose to restrict ourselves to ad hominem and straw man arguments.
Well, like he talks about the cartels in Canada and all that. Like, I mean, people like Trudeau goes on the stage there yesterday saying only 1% of fentanyl goes across the border. Okay, and then the RCMP says we got over 4,000 drug gangs, whatever, cartels in Canada. Like, and then you have like the big drug bust on BC, one of the biggest ever. So
you know, I have a small anecdote about Canada and about Quebec. Some people say that Quebecers they go to Cuba for their vacation, or Dominican Republic, because it's the only two countries that are worse than Quebec. So when Quebecers they come back in, they say, "Oh, we're so happy to be back in Quebec." And I'm thinking about Trump, how he thinks about Canada. He says, "Wait, we were fighting Soviet Union, socialism, not knowing that we have socialism right at our border, north border."
Yes.
This is frightening for, I would say, if you want to use the classical word of liberalism, free market, fair trade. So I suppose that he is aware that the country is socialist, really, and not like it's starting to look like more authoritarian countries. I think he knows about it.
Well,
go ahead, Tim.
Trump has a habit of flushing his enemy out into the open so that the public can also see them. So he's going back into a 1700s, 1800s European political style and using that blustery theatrical model where the king would bring someone into the throne room and make a fool of them in public.
Of him, yes, in public.
And they could see this other person's poor behavior, as opposed to bringing him into a side room and trying to have a diplomatic, gentleman's conversation where they continue to resist that. Zelensky shows up in the White House wearing a sweatpants and jeans. I'm sorry. Go home, put on some dress pants and a shirt and tie, and then come back. But he does this and does it in public on purpose.
Can I follow up on that? I'm in Edmonton now. I've taken a whole bunch of cabs. I've talked to cabbies. I've talked to people. Everyone is quick to point out how Donald Trump acted undiplomatically in his dealing with Zelensky. No one's pointing out that Zelensky showed up in a tracksuit. How do you show up like that and expect to be treated diplomatically?
They're brainwashed. Yeah. They're just brainwashed.
It's what is that called? Is it the false positive?
False positive, yes, it's false positive.
Is that the logical fallacy that's at play here? So
yes.
It's making it's saying you're complaining that Zelensky's wearing non-business attire, but look at Elon Musk. I'm like, yeah, but Elon Musk is not a head of state, right? Elon Musk is a higher.
Zelensky is not either. Zelensky is not
That's
either.
also very true.
He's not legitimate, so.
Right? Yeah, he's not. So where I'm going with this is Trump is interested in flushing out what's really behind the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party in Canada, because as the way I see it, he looks north of the 49th and says, I see Chinese influence presenting a real security threat on the largest unprotected border of the country. Yeah. I see fentanyl coming from Chinese labs being shipped in through various names and agencies and persons, 4,000 or more, into Vancouver, dropping south across the border through Peace Arch Bridge, running across the northern United States in transport trucks, etc., and popping up through Detroit.
Exactly.
Into southern Ontario. And that's the route, and I want you people to stop it, and they won't. And they won't because the UN wants Canada to have a permeable border. Post-nation state doesn't require a border. Thank you very much. So for them to tighten up the border, for them to restrict or curtail illegal migration back and forth across the border, is contradictory to what the UN and WEF have given them exclusive orders to make happen.
Well, we see it with what happened since Trump is in office.
Yeah.
The migration in the south border of the United States is more controlled now. And, you want to have more political control, create chaos.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you create chaos, and then after that, you can implement some laws.
Let's go to our guest. Arnold, what will the new Blue Party do to stop the drug trafficking down south?
Tighten up the border, tighten up the border, and we have to let the judges tell the judges to do what they're supposed to do. Like we just had a father get charged with manslaughter because his daughter got into the fentanyl and died. So, I mean and anybody that has fentanyl or like drugs like that, and you're dealing it, or even if you have it in your house, because you know that fentanyl is one of the deadliest drugs in the world, it should be first degree manslaughter, first degree murder charge. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know it's a product. A, you know it's a product that's illegal, and B, you know it can kill. If it gets in the wrong hands, it can kill.
Yeah,
it can kill people. So the judges have to do what they're supposed to do, and not interpret the laws the way our government wants to interpret them. Just like the laws in Canada are pretty much black and white. Our laws are perfect. Is if the judges would apply them as they are. Like, and in Sudbury, the other day, a man got let off with conspiracy to abuse children. He had no bail time or nothing because of time served. So the first thing is you have to nail the drugs. Like the police in Sault Ste. Marie are doing a great job. They're doing their job perfectly, but they're not getting any help from the judges. It's like, we had this one person. He had, I think, 12.5 grams of fentanyl on him, and he told the judge that I go down to Toronto to get it, so that way I don't have to go down every month because I'm on whatever, I don't know what it is, but government's on some government program. So I just get it. I just go down there and I get it just for personal use. So the judge said, okay. A month later, guess what? He got caught again. Same thing. Like that's how bad our court systems are.
It shows in big city and but in Sault Ste. Marie you don't have like big city like Toronto, Vancouver, but it shows now in big city, those big city that were target to be 15-minute cities. A lot of people in it now. That because the systems are collapsing, you see drug dealing in Metro in Montreal. You see it in big cities. It will create chaos somewhere. And I think you mentioned something, Arnold. The police, they're doing a good job, considering what is happening. I'm not talking about the RCMP, but I would say provincial police. They try to. This is another issue, but they try to. They try to implement the law, and they are not supported.
No, our city police. I'm biased because I live here, but they're doing the best they can.
Yes.
Like you see a sign behind me. There used to be Sault Ste. Marie Algoma's friendliest city. Now it's like when I'm going up there. Now it's like you see the old fentanyl pose all around the streets. People bent over, like
yes,
it's sad.
Yes.
So one thing I think a big thing we have to do is, I know people aren't gonna like me when they say this, but when they brought out naloxone, it was for the reason they brought out was great, but now it's just being used as a byproduct to the addicts' drug use because
it's an enablement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like what we need in Sioux here is they just built a rehab site, but we need something at least 10 times that size, and you have to build it on the outskirts of the city, away from the bright city lights, because no pun intended, these addicts are they're dying for help, they know they need help.
Yes.
They know they have to. They know it's a long-term process for them to get help. So that way, you can first off wean them off the drugs, and then rehabilitate them back so that they can feel good about themselves again, and then give them trades or tools to integrate back into society.
And that has to happen on a secure property off city limits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because this is a people, places, and things problem.
Yeah.
Right. They have to be separated from the people that used to associate and purchase from. They have to move away from places where they did these things, and they have to not participate in, people, places, and things. Right. So they have to separate themselves, and most of it will happen in the less like dead or dying downtown or industrial cores.
Yeah,
that's where most of this will congregate, because there's not as much traffic, like public traffic, or not as right. So this is generally where they will congregate. They need to be separated from that entirely, because if all you see around you is hell, then you're going to think everywhere is hell, and you'll choose not to get out of the gerbil wheel.
Yeah, because they see no hope.
They see no hope, but they're afraid of what's outside because all they see is what they're in.
Yeah.
So they choose to stay there because it's chaotic. It's like the battered wife. She doesn't want to leave because she doesn't know what's on the outside. And she will choose to stay where she is. It's painful, it's bad, but at least she knows, at least there's a degree of control.
Exactly.
Right? And the addict feels the same way. I'm a recovered alcoholic, so I understand these concepts.
Yeah.
Right. So if we were to put, I don't like the idea of using government money for it. I'd rather use the money of the MPs and who made it happen.
No, I agree.
You're dreaming.
Right. And or using public charity money from the local citizen, that's fine too. You need to physically remove them to properties outside of city limits. Effectively work camps.
That's Tim. That's the concept of the concept of a hospital. I can refer even to a mental hospital, and it's not to diminish the suffering of people. But when you remove people from an environment, a toxic environment, you permit them to be more in a calm environment, so they can heal and get out of it. And then when they are ready, they can re-enter the public life. I think the concept of global village, everybody is at the same place, and it brings only chaos, even in small cities. We see it everywhere.
Well, I think what's happened is back in the days, if a person was in trouble, the church doors were always open. There was always support groups that the doors were always open 24 hours a day. Then they started even the mental institutions, they started closing down because it's not the right thing to do because you're labeling and whatever. And then when they legalized marijuana, that was the beginning of the end for Canada.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying. We had a conversation. You were talking about this, and even policemen were telling you that, I suppose. I think.
Guys, we're over an hour in. We've covered two of our topics. I was going to go to one of the audience questions. This is related to I have to look at your label, Arnold's election run. Sue says Ford knew the early call would marginalize the other conservative movements, part of his strategy. Do you agree with that, Arnold, or not?
No, I think that was part of his strategy. Plus, he thought I guess in his mind somehow thought he was going to get a super majority, but he actually lost 3 seats.
Mm.
So I think that was, plus the way he called it in February at such short notice, that none of the other parties could scramble enough to get everything organized. Where he was already had this day planned, and he had everything organized.
Yeah.
He had his candidates ready. They all had the signs ready. Everything was ready for the day that the writ was dropped. So it was his. I think that was one of his goals to destroy the other parties too.
Yeah. He knew it before.
Well, I mean, if you hold the starting pistol, you're probably going to win.
It depends if you will it like this. That's another question.
Yeah.
User error.
You know,
Well,
liberals sometimes they don't
User
know how
error.
to shoot the starting
But
pistol.
you know, in reference to the starting pistol of the race, right? It's so if you know who's going to pull the trigger and start the race, you're already ahead.
Yes, of course.
Like I said, you've got deep pockets to send out to all of your the supply agencies who are going to provide you with your campaigning materials, and that's already sitting in people's garages ready to go, and you're not communicating that to the public or to the competition. Are we really in a democratic model anymore?
I don't think so. I have a question for Arnold. What will be your next political move?
Well, see what happens in the federal election.
Okay.
So
What are your thoughts on that at a federal level? What do you think about the proroguing and the threats and teasers of dropping the writ next week?
it's a 50-50 chance that the writ's going to be dropped, or it's going to be, we're not going to have an election until October 26th.
What are the arguments for both, do you think?
I think the latter is Carney's already talked about using the Emergency Act to get his programs across.
Again.
Yeah, and then I think Trudeau has something up his sleeve that he's not telling anybody, because there's rumors out there that he might not even step down now.
Yes.
So
do you think that we should change the political message? Because if either it is Carney or even if Trudeau stays and they evoke the Emergency Act, we're not in democracy anymore. How do we react as citizens when they prorogue the parliament? And today they announce, I think today or yesterday, they announced again another ban on many guns, firearms, without any consultation and without the parliament voting on nothing.
They can't do that during prorogue. That's a legislative act.
Yeah, but there's no opposition. There's no debate, nothing. What will be? What do you think, Arnold? What do you think will happen? Do we have to change the strategy?
well, my biggest question be to the people of Canada is, how can you vote for parties that shut you down, that froze bank accounts, that closed businesses, that closed churches, that arrested pastors, and close our own borderlines? Like, how can you vote for? And there's all four parties, I should say, that did that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you think Canadians forgot about? I mean, I hope they didn't forget about it, but it seems like they have. But we have to keep on reminding them, because right now, like like Koliev seems like he's doing everything he can to tank the PC party. Like he's
doing a very good job.
Yeah, he's side by side with Trudeau there.
Yeah.
Like
Prior to Carney, he had momentum, and now he's lost it.
Yeah, now he says he wants to put he wants to go 1-on-1 on tariffs with Trump, and then he wants to give more money to Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Like he just, and that's where you got to sit back and think, okay, all these political leaders in Canada, something's gone on there, because they're now all on the same page.
Yeah.
So something is more.
Sorry, I think the WF is applying pressure, because as far as I'm concerned, the CPC and the LPC are WEF shills.
Yeah.
And the NDP is too, but more so to prop up whichever side he's told to prop up at the time, which will include supporting Poilievre if they are told to go to election. So Poilievre, if that scenario were to happen, and I don't think it will, but if it were, that will be what will happen. And Carney, I see him as an agent or an emissary of the City of London.
Yes.
Yeah, but something is fishy about Carney. Let's say he will win the leadership race. Technically, he's the leader of the Liberal Party.
Yes.
and he will probably run in a by-election, something like that, to be elected and become prime minister. How could Trudeau stay in power and say, "I will ask Mark Carney to be my finance minister"?
I tell you what,
It doesn't. The math doesn't match at all.
I tell you what, I think the possible route going forward is Trudeau, and we nailed this a couple of months ago, said, I intend to resign.
No, I understand.
Right?
Tim.
Right?
I intend, but
so yesterday, the day before, he's made language saying that might not be the case. So, and seeing that he has complete control of his caucus, and he says, no, I changed my mind. And he also said live, I want to be prime minister that pushes back against Donald Trump.
I think what Andre is asking is legally, constitutionally, like how would that work?
Well, so usually that's the question I'm asking, but now I'm going to do it the way you guys ask. What law? Who cares?
no,
Right? Who cares? So if he suddenly decides,
We brought the camel's back.
right? If he suddenly decides,
Okay.
no, I think I'm gonna stay on as prime minister, and I'm gonna deal with Donald. I'm gonna take care of Donald.
now
Right?
you're
So then,
starting
and
to
then the
sound.
caucus says, "Oh, okay, fine," and Carney pulls him aside and says, "What the f, man? What do you think you're doing?" Well, I'm going to deal with Donald. I don't because he needs to be center of attention. So he manages to push his entire caucus around and goes up to Carney and says, "I tell you what, we'll kick out Freeland. You can win a by-election in her riding, and we'll make you the finance minister. And then after I put Trump in his place, right, and earn my piece of history, then I'll step down and you can become prime minister of Canada." And Carney will be like, that actually works for me because then I'm not the one who'll take the fall.
What if I threw this curveball in there? When Trump got the presidency, Trudeau said the Americans missed their opportunity to elect the first woman.
Women. Yes, I remember that.
Now Freeland and both Karina Gold said that if they win the Liberal leadership, that they will bring Carney in as into Parliament somehow. So what if the Liberals threw a curveball and actually had a female win the leadership? Then Trudeau will get his female prime minister, and they would bring Carney in as an advisor somehow.
Doesn't Trudeau constitute the first female prime minister?
That's what I was going to go in that direction. Judging from the talks alone and the way he crosses his legs in meetings, he's already the first woman prime minister.
Okay, gentlemen, we're talking about Barnum and Bailey circus here.
Yes, very much so.
But I have a question for you three. Why I say this is because I wrote an article this week called Canadian Fascism, and I was comparing a characteristic of fascism of Mussolini to what is happening, and I gave some example that what is happening in Canada. If we think that we do not live in democracy anymore, or we think that democracy is in danger, how as political people, how do we react, and what would be the message for the population? Because either they respect the law or not, either they respect the Constitution or not, either they play fools like they're playing now. Even Poiliev, who had a very good, comfortable majority, now he's losing ground, and he's starting to look like what he is, somebody who's not very educated and never understood really what is politics, the real noble definition of politics. And let's not forget now where those voters will go from the Conservative Party. Do you think they will go back to the Liberal, or do you think they're I think so. What would be the message that we could say to Canadian today about what is happening? First of all, try maybe to remove fear, because I think this creates a lot of anxiety for people.
Let's go Arnold, Tim, and then me. Go ahead, Arnold.
Well, first off, like we said earlier, we have to get involved from the ground up. And we have to educate people. We have to give them facts. Like with the tariffs, we tariff the states on an average 25% already. So, and like some products are as high as 300%. So we have to educate them, and we just have to show this is what's happening. Because I think and remind the Canadians of what happened just 3 years ago with the lockdowns and all that.
Yeah.
And we just have to, and we not to berate the other parties, but to show where the other parties have and are heading.
Tim?
What?
I don't know. I honestly didn't listen to the question, but whatever Andre asked, do you want to respond?
Do I have to repeat again?
I'm thinking about ways to implement what Arnold's talking about is education, and I think education reveals what we said at the beginning of the show. A crisis reveals opportunity, right? But if people who are in crisis, this low level continuous thrum of anxiety across our entire culture in a variety of different facets of our culture, people stop reaching out because every time they reach out, they get burned, right? They get stung by something, so they
isolate themselves after.
They isolate themselves, and that's fine. That's fine if what you're trying to do is create an oligarchy or a technocracy, whatever it is, whatever form of totalitarian government you're after. The way around that is education. So then the question is, those at these ground activities who are participating in Boy Scouts or Girl Guides or the local curling club or the crochet club, or they're in the parent advisory committee, or they're active in the safety committee at their job, right? Like all this low level stuff where these people say, we're going to be okay. We work together. We'll take care of each other. And that you elevate the entire people out of this air of hopelessness. And that's education. Education is you can do something. On a much larger scale, I say humans have devolved. We've lost the capacity that we had, which was beaten out of us and bled out of us through 2 world wars and the mess that was the 1800s through expansionist Europe. And we need to get that back. And the way to get that back is to say, this is what you can do. And I think education is the answer. The question is, how do we get that on a national level?
That's where maybe the strategy would be important. Payment.
Yeah, I mean, Tim answered that beautifully. So I agree with everything he says. I can't really add much more to it. The only thing I'll say is in 2025, when we say education, like what the 4 of us are doing here, it is education, because we're making the conscious decision not to listen to the mainstream media, and we need all citizens to do this at a local level. So you asked, how do we unleash this nationally? Well, if every citizen did what the 4 of us are doing, if all 4 citizens got together, they did this on a Friday, we'd be in a much, much better position.
So then it's more of this. And so this is Gutenberg 2.0.
If you say so.
I think
this is the internet, and what we're capable of doing with the internet these days is the cultural equivalent of the printing press.
Exactly, Gutenberg. And this why I asked this question is because we have to find strategy to meet each other more often in person, but also virtually. Like you said, Tim, in person with the hockey club and the knitting club, and where you go to the smaller bazaar or market, and you start to talk to each other. But I see a difficulty. I see a problem. People are afraid to talk.
Well, I think Payman provides the answer for that, because every now and then he'll make a post on a Friday and say, okay, everybody, put all the garbage aside and spend time with your family and your friends this weekend. Right? So restoring family function, restoring the value of the family. I participate in my family because I'm part of it. So if the quote unquote enemy is after fracturing and destroying the family unit, then the solution is
to recreate it. Yes.
So, right. And so Payman that signs off on the weekend saying this, that's the cure. More though than anything that I could suggest from a business perspective or organizational perspective, the cure is strengthen your family. Go enjoy your family. Don't just hang out. Go and enjoy them. Participate.
There are some indicators, economic indicators about like the GDP and everything. And there's one indicator that I always think that is very funny. It's the percentage of happiness. They rank countries, and they say which country or people are most happy. Is there a way in Canada that we can measure the level of hope? I think about the Freedom Convoy, and Arnold, you did a very beautiful video. Remember when?
Yeah.
You made me cry. I know, and I didn't cry in front of 1 million people like Trudeau, but it touched me because you referred to the Canada Soviet Union 1972 hockey game.
Oh, yeah.
You referred to Terry Fox, and you referred to the Freedom Convoy in this video, and that were core values, custom feelings of Canada, and we need more of those beautiful events. It's a small clip. It's 4 minutes clip, and it's so touching. We need this. We need to give hope to people. Like you say, with Devolve now, we have to reverse the tide. Maybe like Payment says, the more we create those small podcast or exchange or the conversation, the more we will create hope.
Yes, if I said that, then I was right to say that.
Yes, but the small video was very touching, very, very beautiful done. And, I can say congratulations. That was a real success.
Yeah.
It's not like Canada hasn't lost it. It's just we have to restore it.
Yes, because we're too big. We're too big to lose.
But
right?
too big to lose,
but
and
we're not too big to get to avoid getting beat up badly.
Yes,
so
but Tim, it is what 41. Okay, forget about immigration. It's 41 million people for a beautiful country, very big, full of natural resources.
Yes.
We have no reason to despair. We have no reason. We can settle our differences if we work together, but we have to help, like you said, we have to help people work together, gather locally, and restore family relation tradition. Yes,
relationships, because I mean, even if you find yourself with a different tradition, at least maintain your family.
Yes.
Let me just add one thing, Arnold. I'll throw it back to you in a moment. Andre, you used to run for the People's Party. Me and Arnold were running. Tim, you're a CEO for an EDA.
Tim is a patriarch of the People's Party.
Yeah. He's technically is above us.
Still no money in it.
You don't have, but take the People's Party out. If you pick any party or run as an independent, that gives you legitimacy. And using that legitimacy, you can put up a call, a town hall, a meet and greet, and people will come and they'll offer a few minutes of their time to listen to you, tell them how you want the country to go. So if you want to give hope to people, consider running for public office.
Yes.
And then going out there and talking to people and presenting your vision for where you think the country should go, because they will be more likely to listen to you as opposed to just randomly talking to people at the bus stop.
Yeah.
You're right. The official position gives you authority. That's a very good point.
As in the story where they have the chimpanzees in the cage and they throw in the banana, right? In that experiment, eventually there are no chimpanzees who were originally punished for going after the banana because they swapped them all out. We change that scenario by not recoiling, but by telling the neighbor. So when you're suggesting, right, being involved politically and at different levels, you're telling your neighbor, right? Listen, I'm being beat up because I'm doing this, and I'm doing this because you need to hear the message. one example I'm toying with for campaigning is taking Louder with Crowder's table, putting some type of political, quick, smart ass phrase, and parking on near the doorway of the local mall until they come and kick you off the property, which will give you about an hour, and just doing things like that. So you don't even necessarily have to, get a hall or a meeting space, but physically the sign campaigns where you do this quick. We will hold up. We'll do a big 30 of us will stand on the a couple of street corners, and we'll occupy that space for about an hour, and then we'll go off and do something else. Right? These behaviors, and I really don't care what party you're in, be engaged. Right? Be engaged. Right? And if you are a conservative mind, don't be intimidated by the strength of the Marxists.
So we're approaching the hour and a half mark. I did an interview for 2.5 hours before this. I have an ass that is as flat as a cutting board. In wrapping this up, maybe Arnold, do you want to give us your final remarks and I don't know, continue on this theme of hope for Canadians?
Well, bottom line, Canada goes down, which seems like not one of our politicians. Every one of our politicians forgot about the first line of our Charter of Rights. We're a country built on the supremacy of God and the rule of law. I mean, that is the most powerful sentence of any, as far as I'm concerned, of any country in the States. There is in God we trust. But it seems like our politicians forgot about that. And talking to people, I go with the adage that it's we the people, not we the government. Politicians go to Parliament or Queen's Park in Ontario, and they go representing the people. And for some reason, I don't know what they put in their drinks or their food over there, but they come back representing the government. It's like two different people. It's like, so we are there for the people, not for ourselves. We're just a vessel that, okay, what do you want me to do for you in Parliament? What do you want me to do for you at Queen's Park? And we need to get people in politics that have that attitude, because right now none of the politicians care what the constituents talk about. Like you can see it's you watch CPAC, whatever, and you see you listen to their catfight there they have every day, and it's ridiculous. They're not listening to the average Canadian, and that's where Canadians have given up, and that's why Ontario only had 45% of people vote.
Yes,
which is shameful. So, but we have to, like say, our country was a great country, still is a great country, and will be a good country. We just have to get rid of the government bureaucracy to get it back to the. Yeah. And then, just like you said earlier, Tim, we have to get back to, even as a country, as a family unit. Yeah. Because it used to be like Canada was a family unit, and the provinces were a family unit, and the cities were a family unit. Like the court that I lived on, it was a family unit, and then you have the family unit. But everybody worked as a family, and it's just if somebody needed help, they helped and whatever. So we have to get that back to that family attitude in our country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as long as there's no other comments from my two co-hosts, just wanted to thank you, Arnold, for coming on, and thank you, congratulate you first of all for beating the Green Party, but thank you for actually taking the time to run provincially as well.
Yes.
I want to thank you for allowing to be on here. It's been a blast. Hopefully we can do it again. And next challenge is federal election if we have one, and let's bring the People's Party on.
Yep.
Exactly. Maybe I will just make one suggestion. We talk about you talk, Arnold, about politicians that are talking in the air and not representing people. I would refer to in lay terms with payment. We have 168 hours per week, and we sleep usually 8 hours per day. So we have a limited time. why waste time? And it was Henri David Thoreau who was saying, hurry up to read the greatest writers because you will not have the time to read them all. So I say to people, you have 168 hours per week. Don't waste your time listening to useless politicians who have nothing to say to you. Listen to, for example, in lay terms, or listen to people who talk to you, who express something, and and disconnect from mainstream media. It maybe you lose hair at the beginning, you suffocate, but after a certain time, your brain starts to function. It was a pleasure, Arnold.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
So Arnold, we'll hold you over until after the show, after we stop the live stream. But thank you to everyone, to my co-hosts and Arnold. Have a nice day.
Good weekend.
I hate it with the computer here on the side. Come on. There you go.